and people say it's almost like a bit of an off-the-cuff comment now, but, you know, sport is 90% mental and 10% physical. And look, a lot of sport is physical, but when you get to the start line, when you're taking the best 10, 20 athletes in the world in any sport, they could all probably beat each other on any given day. It comes down to up here, who's got it up there in their mind, who's the strongest, who's got the most self-belief and confidence. And I certainly had that as a kid, definitely. Early on, I had that self-confidence. I really believed in myself. And that was really instilled into me through my family as well. They were so supportive. But I think as a teenager, I was certainly a people pleaser as a young person. And I wanted to make everybody happy. And I think because my dad was very successful but didn't quite make it in football, and Sergey was incredibly successful and didn't quite make it in gymnastics, for me, they had so much self-belief in me, I was kind of a little bit confused by it and baffled. I can remember thinking, like, genuinely, my dad believed in me more than I've ever seen anybody else believe in anyone. Like, it was, for me, that was pressure. I couldn't believe that he's got so much self-belief in me and I don't feel that way about myself. Like, what if I don't live up to his expectations? And as a teenager, I was trying to please a lot of people, and in particular my coach, you know. I would go and win competitions or do really well, and everybody would be coming up to me, patting me on the back. But unless I got that approval from Sergey, it meant nothing to me, you know. I had lost that self-belief, and I was more reliant on other people's opinions of what I was doing. And their belief in me, I think, I kind of fed off that, and I needed people to tell me I was doing well and I was doing good. It wasn't coming like intrinsically through me. And I think I did get that back towards the end of my career. That self-belief came back, and towards the end, it was brilliant. You know, I'd go into the gym and I'd kind of started to look back at the beginning of my career, and that narrative that I had really fed into this self-belief that I wasn't talented. I was just somebody that worked harder than everybody else. And I'm sure it was me kind of like counteracting myself ever becoming like a bit lazy and taking my foot off the gas or becoming cocky and arrogant. And because that was something that I think certainly Sergey and my dad were quite conscious of. They never wanted me to, they always kept me very grounded, which I'm super grateful for. But for me, I'm so self-critical. I was never, ever going to become an arrogant athlete or person or gymnast, because my harshest critic was always myself inside my head, you know? And I think that really looking back, that's one thing that probably really impacted me now. That narrative that I'd told myself as a real young kid that, you know, you're not that talented, you've just got to work harder than everybody else. And I think it played a massive role in getting me to the Olympic Games in London 2012, but it's also probably why I burnt out quite a bit as well towards the end of my career, because I overtrained a lot of the time. But at the end, that self-belief came back, and I started listening to Sergey. I started believing him when he was telling me that, Sam, you can do this, like your gymnastics is so good, you can do anything. And I started to go, yeah, actually, I've done so much in my career, I must be pretty good. And I know that will sound crazy to people because I've had a really successful career, but that self-belief, it just wasn't there a lot of the time, you know? And that really is the key ingredient. And I think the athlete for me that I trained with, competed with, and that I saw that had this unwavering, and everybody had it. And some of the athletes that I spoke about, and certainly me, I had it at times and then it went away. You know, it's ever changing a career in sport. And for this athlete was probably Niall. And I remember Niall had so much self-belief that when he came onto the senior team at 18, and we had a training camp in Portugal, and he's following himself around with his camera, interviewing himself, and basically making YouTube videos, and all of those older lads are kind of looking at him like, who the hell does this kid think he is? And all of the lads, the hardest thing that I think was the lads that were his age were thinking, who the hell does he think he is? Like, he's one of us, and he's now on that senior team, and he thinks he's better than everybody. But he didn't listen to all of that. He knew what he was doing. He stuck to his guns. And I think I've mentioned this before, but in 2016, at the second Olympic trial, when I stood there on the line next to Niall, and I said to myself, I can't believe I've done that. I think that says a lot about my own self-belief. And his response was, yeah, believe it. You're Sam Oldham. And I think that says a lot about Niall. And Niall went on to have an unbelievably successful career. And he's been successful not just in gymnastics, but in YouTube and all the other stuff he's doing. He's now on TV. But for me, his self-belief was just unbreakable, you know? You could have stood there and he would have argued all day long that, of course I'm going to be the best in the world.